All set.
Good evening, everyone. The time being 6 p.m. on Tuesday, July 27th, 2021, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order. As a reminder, there were changes issued by Governor Baker modifying the open meeting law requirements given the COVID-19 pandemic, and certain COVID-19 measures that were adopted during the state of emergency have been extended, including those that allow public bodies to conduct meetings in a virtual forum as long as the public has access to the meeting. This meeting's been posted on the district website with a Zoom link allowing the public to join. As another reminder, this meeting is being recorded, both audio and video, and will be posted on the district website. The first item on the agenda is the discussion and approval of COVID protocols for the school year 2021 to 2022. Good evening, Dr. Gogan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this additional meeting tonight. We felt it was prudent to know what our protocols were going to be so that we could properly inform our families and staff. So tonight I'm going to briefly go over what's in your packet, and we have our school nurses with us tonight, Mrs. Pepin and Mrs. Phillips, who helped with putting this together. Our Board of Health Director is not on yet, but we were assuming that she was coming as well. So hopefully she will join in. So basically, in a nutshell, we are recommending, or I am recommending, that we wear masks for the year, and that we will do our best to have some distancing at lunch with 3 feet as our goal, but with no promises, especially at Park Ave. We are promising that we will have students face forward when they are maskless, and I can go through the list of what we have put together. We have a 2-page sheet. Given that the American Pediatrics have come out and said all students should be wearing masks, vaccinated or not vaccinated. And today CDC also came out with that recommendation. We went round robin as a team, as a COVID leadership team, on what would be best to keep our community and students safe. We feel this is less than what we've been doing in the previous year, but we also know that if things change to the betterment, that we can relieve some of these protocols. Our ultimate goal, as you know, is to keep everyone safe and to actually get all of our students back in school and have some sense of normal. So we believe the students that are coming to summer school are wearing masks, and the distancing is something that we're not keeping stringent rules about, except during lunch. We will provide some distancing. As you know, any student or staff outside is not required to wear a mask. If students are playing sports, they are not required to wear masks. And we have the listing of having our teachers keep the names of students where they're sitting as best that they can for close contact tracing. And we are going to proceed with that and are looking for your feedback. In your packet also is our daily self-home assessment that we will have translated in multiple languages that goes out to families, sort of a checklist on who they should contact. Our nurses have also put together a presentation for families around COVID and COVID questions. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. I think I hit the major things: masks and really lunch, being cautious about having kids sitting facing forward and aiming for a 3 feet distance at lunch. But as you know, all students need to come back to school. We want all of our students to come back to school, and the commissioner is not counting remote learning. So we can't do any distancing in the classroom.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan. Are there questions or comments from the committee?
Through the chair,
Yes,
I have
Ms.
a
Millett?
question about who gets the policy that you sent us? Do all the teachers get the policy and all the parents get the policy?
Yes, this is a protocol because it can change at any time. So this isn't a policy, like a school committee policy. I'm bringing it before you for a layer of transparency. I think we all need to be on the same page on what we expect in our schools. This is a protocol. As we saw last year, Ms. Millett, things change. And we're hoping that the Delta virus and the Delta variant gets under control. So we could get to a point where we could say those who are vaccinated can go on masks. We really had a very lengthy discussion about that. For example, 12-year-olds and under cannot get the vaccination. So we started with talking about whether staff who are vaccinated should be unmasked in front of elementary kids, but now we're learning that the Delta variant can be passed on to students who are younger and unvaccinated. And then we looked at the middle school, and then we said, how can we separate grades 5 and 6 with masks and let 7 and 8 not wear masks? And then what about the student who's 12 years old or under 12 and in 7th grade? And all his or her peers are not wearing masks, but because they cannot get a vaccination, they have to wear a mask. And then we looked at the high school as well. Students move from room to room. How would we possibly keep track of who was vaccinated, and how could we track down the student who had a mask on in one class, but then went to another class and didn't have a mask? And I do think I have talked to our union leadership. I think our teachers are fine with wearing masks and actually probably prefer that to ensure everyone's safety. The piece for us as educators is we want the kids back in school. And we want it to be as normal as it can be. So I think without focusing on the distancing, except during lunch, making sure that everyone is outside unmasked is a reasonable protocol for right now. And we can always revisit this.
Well, it's labeled policy, so I don't know if you want to change that.
Is it labeled policy on? On the agenda, it's the face mask policy. We haven't gotten to that yet. That's different. That is a policy. The protocols that I'm talking about are the ones that are like a 1-page, 2-page document.
Okay.
That really detail what isolation would look like, what testing quarantines are, the responsibility of parents that if a student is quarantined, it's their responsibility to work with the teacher to get the work. Because again, we don't have remote learning. So it details, breakfast and lunch and classroom. And then again, one thing that I didn't mention was on the buses, any student has to wear a mask. That's, regardless of vaccination or non-vaccination. So having everyone wear masks in the fall is consistent with the busing, it's simpler. Not sure if any of the nurses want to jump in on the protocols that we've put together. I think I covered it.
It's pretty much the same thing as last year, except for the distancing requirement. So I think it will be easy for everybody when they come back. It's nothing really new that they have to learn and adjust to. Except for the fact that they had a nice break over the summer, being outside and being able to go into restaurants if they're vaccinated without the masks. But we have a great majority under 12 that are not. So I think for the younger ones, it's going to be easy. It's routine for them already.
Yeah, and the only real changes that we're doing that are different is that we're allowing people to test out of quarantine. So if they have a negative test on day 5, 6, or 7, they can come back on day 8 if they're asymptomatic. Those, if they are vaccinated, they will not have to quarantine, and that's all I've outlined in that protocol as well. So, but that's the things that will inform families on an individual case-by-case basis.
Through the chair.
Yes, Mrs. Blythe.
So I have a question around attendance. Since, we're looking at another quarantine possibility, how will attendance be affected? I know that in in the deck that the nurses created, it did say that absences due to being under investigation, quarantine, or isolation due to confirmed or suspected COVID-19 infection or exposure will be excused at the school nurse's discretion. Because there isn't remote learning as an option, right? That doesn't count as time on learning. How, like, is this going to negatively impact a child because this is our protocol, you know, as far as attendance and
No, so if the absence is excused, it does not impact the student. And if we're getting the work with the parents to the child at home, the time on learning requirement is really for a school as a whole. It's not for an individual student per se. So at high school, it has to be 990 hours. I believe it's 945 at the middle school. That's looking at the school programming. So if a student's out for a medical reason, it's never held against them.
Okay. And I know in the beginning of the meeting, you said that you're looking at a mask protocols for the year. Do you mean that the students will be wearing them for the entire year, or are we going to, you know, come back and revisit this as often as necessary?
Absolutely. I think what COVID has taught us over the last year is that things change on the drop of a dime. Seriously, when summer started, we were all dancing and thinking that no one was going to be wearing masks in the fall. And that was our hope and our goal. Things shifted very quickly with the Delta variant. And I think we're responding to the data. This certainly can be revisited. I don't think it would be, the reason we're doing it now, Mrs. Blythe, is because I do believe people need to know what the fall is going to look like. So we have a meeting on August 24th. If things turn around and, you know, we meet with our Board of Health that quickly, we can always lessen our guidance. And these are protocols that we want people to be aware of so they can be prepared. So it's not, you know, I know when we first started dealing with COVID and school models, we were very structured and set. And that really helped us. But I do believe that all of us, everyone wants to get back to a world where we don't wear masks and we don't have to wear masks. So it is not with joy that we're bringing this to you. It's, I think the ladies would let you know that when we sat and discussed this, my knees started shaking because this is not what we want, not what we wanted for our students or our staff coming into the new year. But I think we have to be smart. I think we have to put safety measures in place. And I think the data's shown that masks help.
Through the chair, just for my own education, what's the methodology of getting the work and books to a family where a student might be in quarantine? Are we letting a parent come into the school after their student has tested potentially positive for COVID? Or are we dropping this off in a, you know, in a mannerism that would indicate no contact between a school official and the family?
That's a really good question, Mr. Adamopoulos. And we did discuss that, and everything would have to be done on a case-by-case basis. So whether you're quarantined with suspected COVID or whether you have it, you know, putting books and things outside of a school for parents to pick up. We've done that in the past. I think, you know, I've walked up to Park Ave many days when there were packets of information for different families. So they would have to work that out. Certainly we will be wise with, you know, when we know someone has it, and everyone has to be responsible. So I don't think a parent would willingly walk into a school knowing that their family was carrying COVID, knowing that they could spread it. So it would be a case-by-case determination on what works best.
Thank you.
We even talked about, you know, do we want to, you know, maybe deliver? But again, this is all, again, something new we're trying. So I'm sure some good things could evolve from this in terms of that delivery method.
Our
And
older students also have Google Classroom at their fingers, and that's when we talked about when we send them home for either possible exposure or under investigation, that we would have them bring their belongings and their Chromebooks home with them so that those students who do have Google Classroom can access it that way.
Not access synchronous learning. I want to be clear about that. It's just access the material or the homework assignment to do things independently. We can't possibly do synchronous learning with having all of our students back in school. And then again, we're really aiming for normal, what normal used to be.
Are there any further questions or comments from the committee? Well, it certainly sounds as though this is as close to normal as we're going to get. We're getting all of our students back into the building. We're lessening the restrictions where we can, and we're being prudent where we need to be. So thank you for proactively putting this together so that we can all plan. If there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the COVID protocols as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you poll the committee, please?
Member Millet? Linda, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Yes.
Member Blythe?
With the caveat that we will definitely revisit when the data changes. Yes.
Member Naparata?
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos? Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the amended face mask policy. Dr. Gogan.
Thank you. This is a policy that the school committee approved, and it's been amended several times due to the ongoing changes during this COVID pandemic. So what you see in blue are all the most recent changes. The red was the last changes. So basically, we're just lining this up with that everyone will wear masks, but when they're outside, they don't have to wear masks. And we took out the social distancing, and we took all the legal references because they're outdated off the policy.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan.
You're
Are there any
welcome.
questions or comments from the committee? Anything our nurses want to add to this one? Not to put you on the spot, but just in case there's anything on your mind.
Through the chair,
Yes, Ms. Millett?
I do have a comment, I guess. In the policy, it says that if a student is refusing to wear a mask, that the principal handles that situation. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I think we need to double check on that, because I've had staff members who have told me that their principals required them to, teachers to handle that. So if it's in the policy, then principals should be handling those on an individual basis. If I'm correct with what I read.
I'm just peeking at it one more time, Mrs. Millett. I just want to see
Okay,
what you're reading.
I think it's towards the end.
Okay. Okay, yes, it does say that the principal will be in consultation with the parents for students who violate the policy on a, I'm assuming, a regular basis. I think one of the things that we've done really well in Webster is that everybody has adhered to, done their best to teach our children about our new safety protocols. So I think it's everyone's responsibility to send little reminders. And sometimes you have to say that, pull it up or push it down, or, put your mask on. The principal certainly can't take care of all of the students. That's everyone sending reminders. But when there's a pattern of behavior or straight out refusal, yes, it goes to the principal, and the principal sets up a meeting with the parent and the guardian and the student. And then certainly if there's a medical reason or a behavioral reason, the principal, in consultation with the school nurses and the board of health director, determine what's the best protocol.
Thank you.
Team effort. It's a team effort.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the amended face mask policy as presented.
So
So moved.
moved.
Second.
Thanks. There's a motion and a second. Lori, could you pull the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for the undoubtedly long hours of effort that have gone into, adjusting and making these recommendations and putting these protocols into place. If there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you pull the committee, please?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone, for this
everyone.
additional meeting. I appreciate it.
Enjoy the
Thank
rest of your
you.
summer.
Have a good night.
Bye. You too.
Bye.